Hello again and welcome back to Illegally Cited. This is Jesse and I am back for another demo time video because we are taking a look at a little demo called Beep Boop. And shout out to the developer. Thank you to the developer for early access to this demo. I should mention that it is not publicly available yet. Not quite sure when that's going to be publicly available. But recently I found out about this game through Twitter/X, and the developer was interested in improving further accessibility. So they had reached out on Twitter saying, hey, does anyone know anybody who would be able to take a look at the game and provide accessibility feedback? And so I replied, and they granted me early access to this demo. And again, I will leave a link in the description below where you can follow the developer and contact them if you are interested in providing accessibility feedback as well. Beep Boop is a kind of an arcade single-screen 2D platformer game, and it is very heavily inspired by Bubble Bobble, if you remember that arcade game, and I played it a lot on the NES back in the day. And they said in the description, even they say, very heavily inspired, which it totally is, but that's not a bad thing. It's a good thing. As far as low vision accessibility wise goes, it's actually quite good already. I can only think of maybe one or two minor things that you could probably add. But before we go play the game, let's go under our settings menu because there's actually a lot in here already. So we have back, we have audio, we have our music volume, we have our sound effects volume, and that's really about it right now. Video, we've got a few settings in here. We've got our modes. So you don't want like window, full screen. Let me see if I can full screen there. We'll get rid of our stupid taskbar. And then we have our like CRT filter if you want that. Some people love that. I'm not a huge fan, so we'll leave that off. And we have show frame rate. Don't really care about that. And when I hit B, it goes all the way out instead of, back one level. So that would be a minor thing. When you hit B, just go back to the previous menu instead of going all the way out to the main menu. But there is already an accessibility menu here. And go away, mouse. Now, this game does support keyboard currently. And it also supports the Xbox controller, which is how I've been playing it. And under accessibility, we'll walk through, and again, look at the text. Black background, large clear text, no problem there. You've got the little highlight arrow on the main menu and even on like some of the settings and stuff. It's very easy to tell which one is being highlighted. They're nice bold, very clear. I love that. So the first option we got here, background flashing, you can turn those types of effects on or off. You have game speed, so if you need to slow it down for cognitive or physical motor reasons or whatever, you can do that. But then they also have a separate speed for enemy speed setting, so normal, and you have fast and slow, that kind of a thing. So that's cool. You get actually the game speed overall, but then you also have separate enemy speed control. So that's a nice couple of settings there. You do have an invincibility option. If you want to go all God mode, you can. Then they have another mode where you have unlimited lives, so you can still die, but if you're still trying to get better at the game and avoid taking damage, but you still, you want to have more lives, there is an unlimited lives mode. Now, you could maybe also have another setting where like maybe they don't want unlimited lives, but maybe instead of 3, maybe you have a thing where you could choose between like 3 and 10 or whatever lives to give you like more of a chance, but still keep the challenge, still keep some of the risk there. So that could be maybe one other thing. High contrast mode, that is off right now. I noticed, and I got to figure out what it is. I think like I choose some of these settings and then after a while they just seem to turn themselves off automatically. I don't know. We'll turn that on in a little bit, but that is kind of a nice feature to make some of the items stand out a little better. We do have a dyslexia font option available as well. And what do we got here? Firing mode, you have manual or automatic or continuous. So if you don't want to continuously, like, tap the button to fire at your enemies, you can automate that. So that, again, that's really good for mobility. Player indicators. Now I'm going to turn that on. Again, I turn this on. It's off by default, and it just gives you like a P1 or a P2 over your character. And I find that it, with all the things that are floating around these levels, all your character and all the enemies and power-ups, just having that little P1, it's just something above your character that draws your visual attention to it. And so I find it's, in the chaos, sometimes it's easier to have that extra bit of visual information there. Hurry up. I'm not quite sure what that is, to be honest with you, so I'm not really going to comment on that. There's like normal, off, and yeah, no glitch. So I don't know. I'm just going to leave it at what it was because I'm not quite sure. So let's go back. And we do have a control option, but there's nothing in here right now. Remap controls would be a good idea. Again, they do support keyboard right now and the Xbox controller, but just being able to, allow for remapping because, maybe someone is able to access certain parts of the keyboard better, or they're using a non-standard keyboard, or maybe a combination of like some controller and some switches. Maybe they're using the adaptive controller through Xbox, whatever it is. But yeah. So already a very good start for accessibility. And again, I love how clean, you get the highlight, you have the arrow, like just, I miss large clear menus and stuff. So before I go into blind accessibility, let's take a look at this as a low vision player. So we're just going to play a normal game. We got 1 or 2 player. And then, okay, we'll go in. Now I start kind of in the lower left corner. And we got this dude that's fallen. We're going to kick him. We're going to hit him. We're going to hit him. Kick them both. And we got these little power-ups here. Let's go ahead and grab these. Grab as many of them as... Oh, that was a dude. I wasn't paying enough attention. That was my stupidity. Alright, let's go use our star ability here. Okay, so that level will kill him. Grab that, and I think we've got most everything that we can do. Okay, I just missed it. So again, there's single screen levels, and each one has its own different layout. So we'll kill those dudes. Okay, let's grab some goodies here. Grab that. Catchy music. Maybe not quite as catchy as Bubble Bobble, but pretty catchy nonetheless. Now in some levels there are, there's like a pit on the bottom of the level, but these are not bottomless pits like where you die. Some early arcade games, like the original Mario Brothers game, for instance, had a pit where, like, if you fell down the pit, you would come out the top of the level, and so there are a lot of games that would do that. Okay, so we'll just let these guys come down. Oh, how did I die? I wasn't even paying attention. Okay, you know what? Screw you guys. Let's just go ahead and hop over here. Boom! Look at all that, man. Sometimes you'll get a power-up where... I think it was an umbrella in the original Bubble Bobble, where you would not go down one level, but you would skip, 5, 6 stages at a time. Oh god! I should have jumped and shot that guy instead of trying to... Okay. So let's go ahead and go under settings again, and this time I'm going to turn on high contrast mode so you guys can see that. High contrast, yes. My number is yes. So let's go ahead and back out. Let's do one more game here. And I'm not playing for, you know, to be super good at it or whatever. I really want to showcase the game, the mechanics, and chat a little bit about its accessibility. So you see how some of the items maybe look a little bit different. Okay, so we got that. Let's get this guy over here. Knock him out. Let's go get some more items here real quick for some scores and whatever. Eventually the level will just move on. And you always start sort of in the lower left-hand corner if you're a player 1, lower right-hand corner if you're a player 2, naturally. Hey, hi, how you doing? You almost landed on my head. Get the hell away from me, buddy. Okay, let's jump up here, shoot that guy, kick that guy, grab the star, get that. Let's get this little power up here, grab you, there we go. That clean that level up pretty good. We've got these little hopping enemies. So before we had enemies that just walked on the screen, but now we have ones that do little hop jump things here. And we got most of them, so we're gonna go ahead and grab more stuff. Okay, new level there. This is the level where I kind of choke some. So let's see if I can do better. Let's kill this guy. The problem is I get too greedy and then I get hit and then that's all she wrote. It's not hard, it's just I was stupid and there we go. I died, but whatever. Okay, let's grab this, grab that. Yoink, yoink, yoink. I didn't get the last one. Alright, let's try to not suck this time. Come on down, let me shoot you. There we go. Knock you out. Okay, where are you gonna be? Let's, okay, we got you. Now, Bubble Bobble, you used to be able to do this weird thing where you could kind of like jump through the walls, like you could boost your, like, the bubble somehow. I'm trying to think of how to explain it, but I don't know if you can do that here. But let's get these. We got another dude over here. Let's kick him. Okay, we got that guy. Oh, gee. Oh, okay. Why did I freeze there? Every so often I freeze for some reason. I gotta go back and... Okay, so this is a thing where if you spend too much time in a level, there's like a weird like pixel snake thing that chases you. So we might be yeah, see, I can't do the major jump thing. So that's taking a look at the game low vision wise. Fonts are good. Contrast is good. You know, having the simple black backgrounds makes everything stand out against it. That's fine. You have the high contrast mode and regular mode, visual mode. The only other possible thing that you could maybe do, or that could be added to, like, maybe like a custom high, so you have the regular high contrast, but maybe there could be an option to say, let's say all enemies could appear in a certain color, and then all helpful things could appear in another color. Like the player could choose what color enemies would be and what color, you know, power-ups or positive items would be colored. And I don't want to just say, just choose red for enemies and whatever, because, you know, some people may be colorblind, they may see certain colors better than others. So just being able to have even just those two categories of, like, you know, harmful items and helpful items. That could be a custom contrast setting. So yeah, I mean, and then for mobility, you already have the kind of game assist. You have the enemy speed. You have the game speed and the enemy speed. Oh, you know what? I bet you that hurry up thing is. I'll bet you that's what that when you okay. Oh, so that's what, you know what? I just realized that's what that is. So if I want to turn that off, then that weird like pixel snake guy won't come after me. Okay, that I get it now. Okay, got it. So yeah, like visual is pretty good. audio. I don't know if this game is stereo or if it's in mono right now. If you're looking at blind accessibility, you would definitely want to have this game to be in stereo, because that's how the blind player is going to need to access information largely. So, like I said, having controller, or customize your controls, whatever it is, keyboard, controller, custom controller, adding those things. So all that stuff is pretty straightforward. Blind accessibility, I think, is going to be a little bit more tricky, a little bit more challenging, because this is a fairly fast action game, action platformer, and the levels themselves, like, even as a low vision player, I can see, like, oh, there's three platforms here, there's 2 on this level, there's 1 on that level, there's 4 over here, the different shapes, like, I can still eyeball it pretty quickly. A blind person, often, like, the way the screen readers work is like you're kind of seeing everything sequentially. You're not able to get, like, the whole idea of the screen layout at a time. So what I'm going to do, because when I pause the game, it makes the level disappear, so you can't kind of look and memorize it. So I'm going to turn some of these assists on so I can talk through some ideas for blind accessibility. Let's go under, I'm going to turn invincibility on, because that way I don't have to worry about dying. So, okay, so P1, P2, both. Oh, that's cool. You can actually turn it on for one, both of the other. Oh, that's cool. So if you're playing with someone at a different skill level, maybe you're playing with a parent and a young child, and you want to just, like, oh, okay, I can avoid this stuff, but we'll make it easier for them. That's a nice touch. Kudos. It's not just on or off. 1, 2, or both. That's awesome. Good job. And then I'm going to turn the hurry up thing off, because I just want to be able to, like, sit on some of these levels and try to think and describe how I would do. So again, the first thing you're going to want to have is stereo audio. So you have a good pan left and right so you can hear what's going on. Second thing you're going to want to have is menu narration, be that in some sort of text-to-speech API through Windows, or screen reader support, or through, I don't know if this is in Unity or what engine it uses, but for menus, options, if you can't see the screen, even though the text is clear, menu narration for going through the menus. Even like when I'm arrowing up and down, you see how it wraps? It's the same option. You could either have a thing where it doesn't wrap, or when it does wrap from top to bottom, you hear an extra sound. So you hear beep, 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 and then boom, you could have a different sound to let you know that, hey, I'm back at the top of the menu. But if you have text-to-speech, there's not even really much of a reason for that, because I can hear, even if it wraps, I'll know that I go from new game to settings to credits to quit, and then back down, I wrap back to the new game. So menu narration would be critical for blind players. Let's go into a game. So again, 1 player, 2 player, your little AB, your kind of tutorial thing here. Right, so here's the thing. I'm starting in the lower left. I'm not on the very bottom floor, but I'm on the one above it. So how to convey the layout of a level? Like I said, I can look at this and I can kind of get, oh, okay, I see where things are. I see the layout, and I can kind of plan the way I want to play the level. A blind player isn't really going to have all that information. So there's a couple of things that I think could be possible. As I'm walking, you would need a sound, like I'm holding to the left right now. And let me turn up my headset just to see here. So right now I'm holding to the left. And there's no like footsteps or anything. if I move to the left, I don't know if I'm blind. I don't know that I'm running into a wall. So you would need something that, you know, like a little bump sound to say, hey, you're walking into a wall. Same thing if this level doesn't have a drop off at the bottom. But if I were to, you would want to actually have two different sounds. So right now I'm on the second level. If I get to right about here, a couple steps away from the ledge, I maybe hear a sound to say, hey, if I keep walking, I'm gonna fall down to the previous floor. If I go up here, you know, I get to, let's say, about here, and I continue walking left, I'm gonna hear a sound. Same thing if I go to the right. If I walk, okay, well, let me go to the new level then here. So we got a level, I get to about here, and then I would take one or two more steps, and then I'm gonna fall down. Now this level does have a pit level, so if I fall down the pit, now I'm up at the top. So there should be a different sound, like if I'm about, let's say about here, I'll fall down to the next level, but if I go all the way down to the bottom, I think there should be a different type of ledge sound to say, hey, if you fall down this pit, you're gonna wrap around, and now you're at the top. So to distinguish between like, hey, I'm just falling down one level at a time, one floor at a time in this level. And then when you hit the bottom, you would have a different sound when you're gonna wrap or loop. How to tell enemies and or not obstacles, but like enemies and power-ups. See, right now this is fairly straightforward because the enemies just walk. And this is where stereo comes in, because I'm sitting in the total middle of the screen. Well, okay, so let's go to this level here. So let's say I'm in the middle of the screen right now, left to right. And I would hear the sounds of enemies, you know, regular, reoccurring, or steady sounds for enemies. And as they get closer to, you know, you get far apart, you'd have to have some pretty good audio escape here so that when the enemies are at the far left, like that one dude is, you would hear it kind of in the way left of your speaker. When they're more toward the center, they would be more toward, you know, obviously the center of your audio. Same thing with the right side. And that's pretty straightforward. And for walking enemies, that's fine. But there are enemies like in that level previously that bounced, that kind of hopped up and down. In the next level, there are some that are more floaters. They kind of fly around. Spatially left and right, you have to have that, so you know where they are in relation to you. And I think footsteps would also be a good thing for your character. Some kind of a sound, because that way you know, and your footsteps, like you'd hear the footsteps in the center of my soundscape right now. But if I were to walk over here to the far left, then I would hear my footsteps over to the left. Same thing with the right. So you would want to have kind of like light footstep sounds to do that. So these guys, they're not just coming at you from left and right. They're coming at you from above. And so it's entirely possible that I could be standing right here and this guy up right above me right now, like, look at this, he's going to land on my head. Or he could land right on my head and kill me. So I'm thinking you could do a thing with pitch. You would have a set pitch for enemies that are on your level that are just walking towards you, or maybe you have like your footstep sound and an enemy footstep sound for enemies that walk at you. That might be the way to do it. You have your little footstep sound, and then you have enemy footstep sounds for enemies that are walking on either side of you, and everything has to pan left and right so you know where things are. For flying enemies, maybe you have a separate little sound. You have a separate little sound, and it would come in pitch as to where they are on the screen. And you maybe, I'm thinking you don't want to have, see, here's the other balance is you're conveying everything through essentially one or two channels, being audio or haptic vibration. These levels, there's so many little platforms that I don't know that you would necessarily want to have. Let's say this level, I don't know how many enemies there were, I wasn't paying attention, but let's say there is like 7 enemies. You wouldn't want to have 7 ascending and descending sounds, because that would just clutter up your soundscape so much. So maybe you have a radius that could be customized. How far away do you want a radius of item and enemy sounds to be so that the player can hear them? So imagine like a little circle around your character, and by default it's set so like, maybe you have a bit of reaction time, but it's not going to play the sounds of these flying guys if they're at the very top of the screen and I'm at the very bottom, because those top guys won't really affect me. But if I were to go up here to about, let's say, this platform here, then I might want to know that, oh, hey, there's some guys that might be on the next level or two above me. So having that sort of distance to let me know to play those enemy sounds in pitch for height, and then panning left and right for, obviously for left and right location. That could be a way to do it. I talked about level drop-offs. You would also probably need to have... So let's say that I'm down at the very bottom. You would almost need to have some sort of... Okay, we're going to do a new level here. So if I'm standing under this, I'm walking, I hear my footsteps. If I walk over here, I don't hear anything. But if I walk under this platform here, I would almost need to have a simple sound to let me know that there is a platform that I can jump to. Now, if like for here, I don't want to know that there's a platform above me because I can't jump to it. It's not going to do me any good. But if I, let's see, so if I jump over here and I jump, whoops, well, okay, so let me jump from down here. If I was on this platform, I can jump. If I jump right here, I can go up another level or another floor. So having a sound to know when something is above my head that I can physically jump to is a thing that you could do. So now I have a cue to say, hey, take another step or two, you're gonna fall. And then I have a thing above my head that says, hey, there's something that I can jump to, and I'll gain another level. I'll go up to the next floor. It's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be as fluid, let's say, as maybe a sighted player has. I can eyeball the screen and see where all the ledges are. But at least it would give them a rough idea of like, hey, these are where the platforms are. And they could kind of, get around it. It still might be confusing to a degree, but it's a way to convey the information non-visually. So for enemies, like I said, walking enemies, like you have footsteps, they have different footsteps. You see there's that one to the right there that just fell in that pit. There's a bouncing enemy, and so maybe you have, instead of footsteps, you kind of hear like a light boing sound whenever they hit whenever they land on a platform. So you kind of hear left and right this boing sound panning, and when you hear the boing, you know that they're on the ground, so they would the blind player would know how to or when to shoot. Floating enemies, you have the pitch. Again, I think you'd want to do a radius because I'm at the bottom of the screen right now. Higher up, you don't really need to know that because the audio would get very cluttered. For power-ups, here's what I would say is there are a lot of different types of power-ups, it looks like. You know, some are for score, some are for that actually have gameplay mechanics. So I know I've had like a different type of firing attack. You have the one that lets you kind of skip several levels down as like a warp. You have the little star that shoots out like those little bullets in all directions. So you have ones that affect gameplay. I would say you would want to have separate sounds, like so if I'm on this platform, I don't need to know that there are, again, you maybe want to have a radius, just like you for enemies, have a power-up radius, so that, again, so your soundscape doesn't get too cluttered. But especially since I'm sitting here and there's a thing just to my right here, there's like a potion looking thing. That could have a sound. If there are items that just give you score, those types of items could have a single sound effect, I think, to make it less confusing. But for items that give you gameplay ramifications, those you would probably want to have separate sound effects for. So again, maybe the star would have its own, because it's gonna, you know, when you hit it, it's gonna go whoosh, and it's gonna, you know, shoot out those bullets in all directions. Maybe you have like a I know that, oh, I'm going to pan, or I'm going to walk over there, and I know what power-up I'm going to go for. So do I risk it and try to get through these enemies to get the power-up, or do I leave it for now? So if I hit this, okay, so it's a whatever that is. So it's really just conveying with short audio. Again, you don't want anything too long, because the player has to be able to react, especially if they're playing the game in real time, not slowed down. It would have to be balanced, you know. Like, I think it's one of those things. If blind accessibility were to be implemented, it would probably take a few iterations to get it right, and you would definitely want to have totally blind players test it. And again, my suggestions may not be the only ones. Some other players may have a more elegant solution to this than I do. But just based on like what other audio games I've played, what other visual games I've played, how to translate audio into visual. And again, there's this balance of getting too little information, too much information, and am I getting 17 sounds playing at once? It's just going to sound like a cluttered mess. Those are all different things really to consider for audio accessibility. That's kind of where we are with audio. The only other thing I would say is maybe because we're only using two buttons essentially, and then the D-pad or analog stick, you could map a couple of other announcement buttons, so you have some information at the top of the screen. So you could maybe hit a button to announce, like, what do we have? We have our high score, okay, our one-player score, and then our two-player score. So you could have buttons for either of those. Maybe you could have a button to say how many enemies were left on a certain level. So I've killed 3 of them, but there's 2 more left. I could hit a button that's like 2 left, or 2 enemies, whatever, just keeping it short. Little announcements like that, especially for these complex platforms that would be really interesting for a blind person to navigate. Like I said, visually I can just see this and zip, zip, zip. I can get around pretty easily. But, oh yeah, so this one, we got all kinds of, there's little staggered little squares. So that's going to be the hardest thing, is to kind of convey the level layout. Like, I think you can get there with describing the, or with audio cues for enemies and items, with the audio panning, and maybe like a bubble or a sphere around you of how far away you want to hear enemies and items by their sounds. And you got your footsteps, you got your clunking sound when you run into a wall, you got your ledge sounds. Yeah. And it would just have to be kind of a trial and error sort of thing for, oh, okay, so that's my warp item. Okay, so yeah, we're going like, what, 4 or 5 different 6 levels down? Yeah, so these are enemies. These just hang out. Okay, so we did those. So they're just... Okay, they... What do? Do they just zip around? Huh. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it would take some iteration. It would probably... It would, you know, it would have to be tested by several users, because it's, again, what my preference would be would probably be different from everybody else. So now this one's interesting because you have a whole bunch of pillars. They're not actually levels. They're like wall dividers, so you can't really jump on them. But I can... How the hell would I do this? Okay, so I can go down here. I can wait for him to fall. Boot him. Get that guy. Jump, get that guy. And then jump and grab that. Okay. So you again, like, I would hear right above me the kind of, it's getting lower and lower by pitch. And then, yeah, so you could do this with audio cues. But stereo sound would be very important. That would be critical. And like I said, I don't know if there's a way, like, I forget how it worked in Bubble Bobble, but you could literally, like, throw a bubble and, like, jump on it and get through it. So I don't know if we're going to have that deep a mechanic, but whatever. A command for how many lives left, how many enemies left, and your score. So those types of announcement things if you had text-to-speech during a game. So I think it is possible to a degree, even with the suggestions that I have. I don't know that it would be as elegant as an experience as a sighted player would have, but it would be close. It would at least let them play and navigate. Oh, this is a weird level. Okay, so yeah, so this one, I can jump that high. Okay. Right, so this one, again, you want to have a sound for there's something above my head that I can jump, and now I'm on top of the little box. You could do it. Or it could be done. I don't know how effective it would be or efficient it would be, but I think you could do it. Again, it's finding that balance between too much and too little information. So that's where the radius for things would be. But I think with the sound effects that I laid out for ideas here, I think it could be done. So that's probably going into way more information than you ever really needed. Low vision accessibility, it's pretty good already. You know, the only other thing is maybe having like a custom contrast where you have for item or helpful item color and enemy item color could be an option, but even what we have is pretty good. Your control customization, that's not there yet. You already have the game speed, you have extra or unlimited lives, you have invincibility. That's awesome. And I love how you can set it between one player, two player, both. That's great. So most of the way, you're already mostly there. As far as, I think, most, or many, I would say many disabilities. I think you're largely already on the right track. Blind accessibility, just because you're taking a visual medium and you're trying to translate it into only audio and also vibration. So you could recommend somebody play with the Xbox controller that would give you the haptic feedback too. So when you're nearing a ledge, instead of having, get a vibration when you were getting close to an edge. So, you'd either drop or you'd want to jump to the left or right. And then all these audio cues. It's possible. And whether you want to try to tackle that or not, I don't know. I don't know how logistically hard that would be. And if you went that route, I would say you would want to also on the settings menu somewhere under accessibility, you'd want to have an audio glossary. So let's say you add sounds for your footsteps, enemy footsteps, the boing for bouncing enemies, the pitch for the floating enemies, your score power-ups versus your gameplay affected power-ups. You would want to be able to arrow through a list of those, and then when I hit A on each one of those, it would play the sound, so I could memorize, okay, when I hear this sound, it's a walking enemy. When I hear this sound, it's a star power-up, or whatever it is, again, look at like what they did in The Last of Us, where you go in there and you can listen to, oh, here's the sound for crouching, here's the sound for prone, or for a ledge that you can mantle over. Same type of idea, but like The Last of Us 2 had a really nice audio glossary. A lot of audio games also have those types of sound effect audio glossaries so that a blind player can learn the sounds. So anyway, that's a lot of information here. Definitely feel free to reach out if you want to try and tackle some of this stuff, and I can definitely refer you to some totally blind players who would be able to further give you ideas and refine some of this stuff. But yeah, those are some potential ideas for accessibility. I think the game is quite fun, especially if you have any, you like the Bubble Bobble games. It's very low vision friendly currently. I think it's quite friendly to other disabilities. And the blind accessibility, stereo audio, text-to-speech, and these other sound effects in the glossary could be workable. So I hope this was helpful to the developer. And again, if you're watching this as just a regular viewer of the channel, and people wonder what it takes to get into consulting, technology consulting, game accessibility consulting, this is the kind of detail that you have to be able to articulate. You have to be clear about it. You can't just say, well, this doesn't work. I can't play this. I don't know what's going on. You have to be able to really tell like what works, what doesn't, what information am I missing, give some ideas for how it might be solved. I did that back in the Diablo beta. That's another video that I did during the Diablo 4 beta last year, I believe it was, last summer. It's under the game accessibility playlist, where I actually wrote down. Now, I didn't write down notes in this one like I did that one. I probably should have. But that's kind of how I do what I do. So I hope this was helpful to everybody, and if you're a player and interested, there will be a demo coming out sometime in the nearest future that people can try for themselves. I think it's already fun to play. And for the dev, thank you for reaching out and being interested in supporting accessibility. And thank you for the early demo. And yeah, thank you for watching the video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Give it a like if you did. Follow me on Twitter at BGFH79, twitch.tv/illegally-cited, illegally-cited.com, and right here on YouTube. Until next time, I will chat with everybody again later.